What's up, guys? I'm back. We here. Remember when I said that part two that I was going to follow up? Well, I'm sorry it took about a year, but I'm back. So let's kind of recap. I mentioned Tony Newton name, uh, one of the bass players who's behind the Invictus, Hot Wax, Holland Dozier Holland. He was like the understudy of James Jamerson in whatever sessions Jamerson didn't make on Motown, they would kind of call him in. He was also Smokey Robinson's touring bassist. You want to hear him play the bass with Smokey, pick up or stream Smokey Robinson and the Miracles live. It's a 1968 live album. I'm trying to rush through this, get through this, but also give you some facts. So he played on, Chairman of the Board stuff, Honeycombs, Laura Lee, Glass House, just about everything that came out of Invictus. He's over like 200 songs in the catalog. Shout out to Tony Newton. Yeah. Definitely one of my inspirations on bass, but he was there. Holland Dozier Holland snatched him up as soon as they start their thing. About 1968. So we're gonna go through who was behind playing the music and all that. So let me go to the next. So as you know, Dennis Coffey came through there. He was playing, he was doing the whole sound effects. I think that's him on Her Generation. He's on that. He was on Banner Gold. Bob Babbitt came through there. He played on Band of Gold, some other stuff, and those, and also they went over there and played with Funkadelic. That's them on I Bet You. So Dennis Coffey was over there playing with, Invictus, Hot Wax. Motown actually threatened him and said, you're not to be doing sessions with Holland Dozier Holland. Because Motown was at odds that they left. But Dennis Coffey wasn't in no contract. He was a free agent. And so he basically told him, like, hey, I could do what I want. Shout out to Dennis Coffey. That's Dennis Coffey also on In the Rain by the Dramatics. He does that. That little sound effect thing. That's him. Yeah, he's on a live Invictus Hot Wax too. So let's go to the next one. Eddie Chink Willis. So basically, the Funk Brothers was on there on some of that stuff. The early Chairman of the Board, Rita Payne, Honeycombs. Eddie Chink Willis was in there laying it down, rocking it with the rest of the crew. Rest in peace to Eddie Willis. Rest in peace to Bob Babbitt, too. Yeah, so you can hear him on a lot of Send the Boys Home. Ding. You hear that? Ding, ding. That's him doing the signature. Um, yeah. So let's go to the next one, right? We're gonna talk about this one right here. Ray Parker Jr. was over there. Now he was over there before Stevie snatched him up completely and took him on tour. So, he was like maybe like 15, 16 at the time. He's laying it down. He's rocking it. He's on Chairman of the Board stuff. He's on, anytime you hear some real, like, like some real, like, funky, rhythmatic guitar, uh, that's Ray Parker Jr. One Ads. That he's playing on One Ads, Stick Up, a lot of Honeycomb, Chairman of the Board stuff, and Fleming and Birds. So he was over there putting down the groundwork, really playing his best. Of course, I mentioned Dennis Coffey. I believe Mike Theodore, his partner, came through there. I think Mike Theodore came through there, laid some stuff down. And then we're going to go to the next. Johnny Griffin. Johnny Griffin, prolific with Motown. He was playing. He's behind a lot of hits on Motown. But he went over there to Invictus, Hot Wax, do work. And he put in some good work. Keyboard wise, he was really one of the top dogs. He was playing with people like Sarah Vaughan and stuff like that. And then he went over there to Motown, so he was really vital to the Motown situation. But of course, he came over there in Invictus. Next, I want to talk about Earl Van Dyke. Earl Van Dyke came over there, and he was putting in work. With the Hammond B3 organ, he was really, playing some real funk. He was putting some funk down, and he was over there, making his bread. Everybody was making their bread back in the day, so why not get with the best? So Earl Van Dyke, he was over there. And then, rest in peace, Earl Van Dyke. Richard Pistol Allen, he was over there playing on some stuff. And, of course, everybody knows Richard Pistol Allen of the Funk Brothers, Earl Van Dyke, Funk Brothers. They all were great musicians. Pistol Allen really had great drum shuffle. He could do some magic work with his drum shuffling. Really, that's him on The Girl's All Right with Me, with the Temptations. And he's on some other stuff. He's on a whole bunch of Motown stuff. So let me get through this. Bear with me. Earl Jones definitely was there. I think Pistol, back to Pistol Allen though. Pistol Allen, I think that's him on Give Me Just a Little More Time by Chairman of the Board. Yeah, Pistol Allen was on it. So Earl Jones is another one. Earl Jones is really, really funky. Uh, he putting in a lot of work, and he played on. Of course, he played on like Cloud Nine. I think that was him on Cloud Nine, and then For Once in My Life, Edwin Stars, 25 Miles, stuff like that. But of course, he went to Invictus to put in work, make his bread. So he's on some stuff, some of the early Invictus Hot Wax stuff. That was him on Heard It Through the Grapevine by Glass Knight. So let's go to the next. Spiderweb. He's a drummer. He's on Lil Child Running Wild. He's on some Temptation tracks, and I think that was him on Home Cooking by Junior Walker and All Stars, and he's on some other stuff. But yeah, he was kind of like a fill-in with another third drummer to pick up the pace, because Motown signed a whole bunch of stuff and they needed more drummers, so he was in there. Shout out to Spiderweb, still around. So he was over there. I think he's on Band of Gold by Frida Payne. That's him playing on there. Okay, so we're gonna go to the next. Bernie Worrell came through there, okay, and he was putting down some funk. I believe that's him on the Man Getting Scared by Chairman of the Board. I think that's him playing the clavinet. That was him. And then you had he was on some Frida Payne stuff. I think that's him playing on Unhooked Generation. Hanging On to a Memory. That's him. That's him playing. He's on there. Hanging On to a Memory. You had Bernie Worrell. He was on a lot of stuff. Like it's amazing. And this is around the time he was still kind of like going in between Funkadelic, because he was signed to them, so he could maneuver and still make his money. So he was playing on some stuff. And rest in peace to Bernie Worrell. The Detroit scene was heavy, and I think George Clinton inspired he inspired When Will It End by the Honeycombs. And yeah, Bernie Worrell is on there playing clavinet. And I know the song does have like a very like futuristic tone to it, you know, just the vibes of it. It was very funky, psychedelic at the same time. Now, shout out to McKinley Jackson. McKinley Jackson was over there. He was one of the first ones over there at Invictus, Hot Wax. He came from the Motown scene. He was friends with Marvin Gaye. He ended up marrying, was it Shirley Jones of the Jones Girls, the lead singer. McKinley Jackson had a song. But before that, let me go step back. His first session was on Smoker Option and Miracles, Ooh Baby Baby. That was like I think his first session with trombone. So he was, trombonist, arranger, writer. He had a song called Love Machine. Doom, 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 when you turn me on. Doom, doom. I love that record. Part 1, Part 2. That I got that on the playlist. Okay, let's go to the next one. Shout out to McKinley Jackson. McKinley Jackson's son is Proof, who was friends with Eminem, and he Proof, the rapper Proof. Rest in peace to Proof. Shout out to McKinley Jackson. Of course, Tiki Forward was in there, putting down some work on some Honeycomb tracks and Chairman of the Board. Those sessions, because also, like I said, he was signed, Parliament was signed to Invictus. So, like I said, he was going in between, just like Bernie Worrell was going in between. So, Tiki Forward. Also, he's on Disco Lady by Johnny Taylor. Check that out. And that's him on I Bet You by Funkadelic. So there's that. Sylvester Rivers, keyboardist, arranger, pianist. He was over there putting in some work. Shout out to Sylvester Rivers. He did some amazing work over there. Now, this person right here, man, one of the funkiest people that ever lived, Wawa Watson. He came over there and he was doing some stuff, on Chairman of the Board, Free to Pain, all of them, you name them. Glass House, 100 Proof Agent, Soul. Like, yeah, Wawa Watson was over there laying down some funk. He's one of the people, one of the musicians on them tracks. Now, let's go to the next. What we have is Roderick Chandler, if I'm getting that right. He was bassist and he was over there putting in some work on some stuff on like Invictus hot wax stuff. He was part of the group that I will end up bringing up in this conversation in a bit. So hold tight. He laid down some funk. He ended up being in a quartet with Johnny Griffin from the Funk Brothers. They had like I think a jazz quartet, and they was doing that. He also ended up playing on some E. Chapman stuff later on, and yeah, the album he did with Johnny Griffith was the Geneva Connection. Yeah, so shout out to him. I'm actually trying to get in contact with him. If anybody know him, or if he's on Facebook or what, guys, let me know. I potentially get him to tell his story. So shout out to him. Talented, very talented. And then the one who was mixing and engineering was Reggie Dozier, who is Lamont Dozier's brother. I think he's Lamont Dozier's brother. Yeah, brother or cousin. I think it's his brother. He was mixing a lot of the records, a lot of the albums. He was putting in a lot of work. Shout out to Reggie Dozier. I don't know. Yeah, he's still with us. So, well, actually, no, he's not. He's not with us. Actually, he died. Okay, so there's that. Interesting enough, Reggie Dozier just died. Wow, he died 15 hours. No, actually, a couple of days ago, he just died. He just passed away. Wow, I just looked it up. Ooh, man, that's unbelievable. Okay, so rest in peace to him. Next, what I want to go into was what I mentioned earlier. So these guys, McKinley Jackson and the Politicians. So the Politicians was considered kind of like the new wave of the hot wax, like hot wax and Invictus. They came in, they did their thing. It basically was all involved. Did I mention Zachary Slater? Zachary Slater, he did drums. He's actually in the group. So he was playing on some stuff. He ended up going over there with Lamont Dozier doing Lamont Dozier solo projects. So yeah, like I said, the Politicians were considered kind of like the younger Funk Brothers, and basically, kind of like they were considered, uh, one of the ones behind um, the music. So, you know, they also have an album. They have an album actually, came out. I think it was like 1972. It's called McKinley Jackson, featuring the politicians, featuring McKinley Jackson. They did a whole album. Uh, Go check that out. I don't think you could find it on. I think there's a CD. Um, you could find some of the tracks on YouTube. Actually, yeah, you can find it on YouTube. So this came out. Uh, Melvin Griffin, sax, electric piano, McKinley, Peanut Roderick, Chandler, Clay Clarence Robinson, and Zachary Slater on drums. Zachary Slater. And so, yeah, go and check that album out. It's actually pretty good. And yeah. So I also want to point out that there was a point where Chairman of the Board did an album, their last album, and it was produced by Jeffrey Bowen, who was Norman Whitfield's understudy. I believe I mentioned this in the previous video, but I'm kind of like bringing it here again. And that album actually featured some of the Funkadelics. Billy Bass Nelson composed some songs on that album. So Billy Bass Nelson was laying down some bass also. The album is very futuristic and very like kind of like you could tell the funkadelic influence was there. That last album of Chairman of the Board, it came out about, let me see, I think it was like 73. Skin on Man. Yeah, that was about 73. That was the last really for real hoorah of Chairman of the Board. I think they stayed at Invictus. But different members, it was like different members and stuff. I'm going to show you the album I'm talking about. Listeners might not know what I'm talking about, but yeah, Skin on Man. Bear with me 1 second while I get it up. Yeah, that's the album. So, yeah. So basically, those musicians, the one I just named, also there was a musician, Chuck Boyd. Chuck Boyd would come around. I believe Chuck Boyd. Chuck Boyd would come around. He was a musician. Yeah. he did some stuff over there, uh, playing on some Hot Wax and Invictus stuff as well. Uh, yeah, so those are really primarily the musicians who was playing on a lot of that stuff. The Funk Brothers with the early stuff, like from like '69 to about maybe early '71 ish, 72, 71 ish. And then, the rest of the guys took over. But you could hear, people like Eddie Willis all over numerous of projects. Like what was it? Every couple's not a pair with General Johnson. That's one of my favorite tracks. Check that out. So Hot Wax, Invictus, they end up folding about 77. Holland Dozier and Holland, the Holland brothers actually went back to Motown and started writing for like the Jackson 5 final projects. They was doing what was they doing? They was doing like the Supremes projects. They was doing the Dynamic Superiors when they went back. And the thing with Holland Dozier Holland was that they were, even if like after a while, Lamont Dozier wasn't around. He went out and did his own thing. And when he wasn't there, he still was getting the credit. So there's that, right? He's like, hey, I found this with y'all, so I'm still getting credit. Hey, I don't blame him on that. Shout out to the Holland brothers. 100 Proof Agent Soul is no longer around. None of the members is around. They are DEAD. That's unfortunate. I don't think there's a necessary part 3 unless you want me to do part 3. You could put it in the comment section. Then I'll look into it. If you want me to go through the albums, go through the groups, this is the musicians I just went through. So I hope you guys made it this far. Please share, like, comment, subscribe. Please, can I get 6,000 subs? Please. I'm doing this. I've been wanting to do this for a long time, and I'm finally getting my chance to do this. And I'm delivering it to the OGs. So please have my back, like I got you guys back. I enjoy this, and I hope you guys enjoy it. My opinions and whatnot. So, all right, I'm out.